Should I rent or should I buy right now? Hey everyone, it's Kenton Becker, American Pacific Mortgage. I am here again with another weekly video update for you. One conversation I've been having with a lot of clients lately is this question about should I rent or should I buy, especially while interest rates are higher. I know this is something that I have talked about on the channel before. I can even reference some past videos, but it seems like every 6 months, every year, we're in a different market. So sometimes it's good to, even though it's the same content, it's updated and refreshed for the current market we're in. And right now we are in a market where interest rates are a little high, although we are seeing signs of them improving, but home prices have really continued to go up. This question or this concern that we were going to see interest rates go up and then home prices go down really didn't happen. Yeah, during the winter months, we see your traditional slowdown in the market, and that's pretty much consistent with every summer and every winter that's ever happened. We're not seeing these big slowdowns that we would expect to see when interest rates jumped up to the 7s and even 8%. So again, does it make more sense to just rent right now, save up a bunch of money, set aside that money, and then buy next year, buy 2 years from now when I have $50,000 saved up and I can put a down payment on a home and get a better interest rate? Here's the bottom line. No, it does not make sense to rent. No, it does not make sense to wait. And I'm gonna show you something real quick. In fact, I'm gonna jump on my computer in just a second. I'm gonna show you kind of that renting versus buying comparison so you can see it in really detailed numbers. But one thing I really want to point out that most people overlook is, let's say that home prices are appreciating at 10% per year and you wanted to buy a $500,000 home, and really you want to wait until interest rates drop 1% so that you can get a better monthly payment. Well, here's the problem. If interest rates drop 1%, but home prices go up by 10% or $50,000 on a $500,000 home, you have the exact same monthly payment. You're really not getting ahead at the end of the day. Sure, you saved 1% on your mortgage and that monthly payment, but because you're paying $50,000 more for the home, you end up having the same price, but you just paid $50,000 more for the home. You're much better off buying the home today at $500,000, even with a high rate, and then a year from now or whenever it gets there, when interest rates drop, then you lower your rate, but it's on the price that you paid today instead of the price tomorrow. I can pencil out these numbers for you, but let's jump on my computer because I want to show you a chart that we use that will allow us to compare the cost of renting and even really saving money, and if you're going to actually truly save money over renting versus the cost of buying. So let's go jump on my computer. All right, everyone, here I am on the buying versus renting calculator. I've gone through, I plugged in some numbers. What I've plugged in for the numbers is $2,000 a month rent versus buying a $500,000 home. What you will see is $2,000 a month rent versus essentially a $3,700 house payment after you factor in taxes, repairs, maintenance, and the monthly payment. Now, one thing that most people don't take into account is the cost of what their rent is going to increase over the next 10 years. And what this chart will actually show you is that over 10 years, you will get to a point where your rent payment for a similar home you're renting today at $2,000 might be pretty close to what you're paying on a mortgage payment today. And that is something that you have to take into account. While you purchase a home and you lock in that monthly payment, your rent will increase over time. What were you paying in rent 10 years ago? What were you paying in rent 20 years ago, maybe? Also taking a look at this, I'm factoring in the loan itself, the cost for the loan. I'm also factoring in appreciation. I'm only using historical appreciation, which is at 5.75%. I'm also factoring in some tax advantages for filing jointly if you are married. What this chart is going to show you is that over a 10-year period of time, the net gain by owning a home versus renting is around $255,000. So what this takes into account is, yes, if you buy a home today and you have a $3,700 payment versus renting with a $2,000 payment, you're actually losing some money. There's no doubt about that. And you're basically, if you were renting, you'd be paying $1,700 less in this example. Now, over time, that shrinks because rents go up. So over a 10-year period, you will have saved $135,000 renting. And this is what all the economists that are big proponents of renting will say, see, that's why it makes better sense to rent instead of buy, because you'll save $135,000, except they leave out one extremely important detail. And that is, in that same 10-year period of time, you will have gained a $375,000 amount of appreciation. Not to mention, over that 10 years, you will have paid off your loan by $66,000, and you'll have gained an additional $12,000 in tax benefits over that period of time. Now, if you sold that home in 10 years, you would have a cost to sell of about $52,000. So when you crunch all these numbers up, that's where you get a net gain of $255,000. I talk to all my clients and they say, well, yeah, Kenton, but if I continue renting now, that's $1,700 a month. I can throw into a mutual fund that gains 10% return. And over the course of a few years, I'll have saved up enough for a down payment to buy a house. It just doesn't make sense. If you take $1,700 and you put it in a mutual fund every single month, if you're the most diligent person that I've ever experienced that is able to take $1,700 of their difference and put it into a mutual fund every month that gains 10% return, which is in and of itself pretty hard to do, you're still only going to wind up with a very small amount of money compared to what you would have had from appreciation gains. The reason why is because of leverage. You're gaining a 10% return on $1,700 per month, and maybe at the end of the year, that's $30,000 or $40,000 at the end of the year. That's a 10% return on that. Comparing that to a $500,000 home that is gaining a 6% return, you're gaining 6% on $500,000. Not 10% on $1,700. You're leveraging your money so much greater when you own a house and you have that appreciation. Gaining 6 to 10% of appreciation on a $500,000 home will always be more than you can save up with the money that you set aside into an account just from that savings. Sure, after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you might have saved up $60,000, $70,000 in that account. But you will have gained more than that in appreciation alone, just living in the house for the same 3, 4, 5 years. And after 10 years, you will have net gain of $255,000. So if you want me to plug in your numbers, I can definitely do that here. I will never be pro renting. I just never will. It always makes more sense to buy. These economists and these news reports that say that renting makes more sense than buying, they never take into account appreciation. They always leave that out of the factor. They just solely look on the cost difference of a mortgage payment versus a rental payment. And they also never take into account the fact that that rent 10 years from now is going to be the same price as the mortgage payment you had today. 10 years from now, you're going to be looking back and going, I wish I would have bought, because not only would I have $250,000 or more in additional equity, but I also have the same payment I would have had on renting a home. So just something to think about. Now, again, I want to just leave you with one last point. If you can't buy a home because you just can't afford something in this market and renting is your only choice, I'm not talking about your situation. I'm talking about clients that they can afford to buy, but they think it's better to rent right now and wait. That's who I'm talking about. That client, it doesn't make sense. And I will continue to bring them numbers and show them how it doesn't make sense to continue renting when they could afford a home and buy a home today. If you can't afford a home, you can't buy today, and you need to continue renting to improve your situation, by all means, do that. Continue to pay the lower cost of renting, improve your credit or improve your income, or get to a place where you can afford to buy in this market. And then when you get there, then make that jump. Don't wait. Don't continue renting anymore. Make the jump into the housing market to purchase a home. So that's what I wanted to show you on here. So as you can see there, really, it does not make sense to rent, especially over a longer period of time. Now, if we're talking about, again, I have those conversations with my clients on, well, what about renting another year? What about renting 2 years? Again, I really don't believe that it's a good idea, because home prices are going to continue to increase. And even if rates drop down, you're just not going to see those benefits even from waiting a couple years. And especially if we fast forward on that 8 to 10 years, you can see how you would have made so much more money just in the appreciation alone by buying a home instead of renting. That is the thing that most economists say, renting is cheaper than buying. but then they don't factor in appreciation. And I'm scratching my head going, you can't look at renting versus buying and not factor in appreciation. That just doesn't make any sense, because that is a part of home ownership. It's the biggest part of home ownership. That's just my take on it. Comment below if you disagree with me, but if you want to run some numbers for yourself, let me know. I can use that same tool, run your own numbers. We've got other tools like that, like the cost of waiting, negotiating if it makes more sense to ask for a lower price versus a lower rate. Lots of different tools that I can run some calculations for you. Thanks so much for joining me in this weekly tip. Have a great week, everyone.